Engineer versus Designer is brought to you by the Mojo 3D printer. Now you can have 3D printing right at your desktop at a remarkably low cost. With the magic of Mojo, there's really no limit to your creativity. See it at mojo3dprinting.com.
Adam, do you ever feel like you're a creative 7 to 12-year-old trapped in the body of a cranky old man in a cardboard robot suit? Ever? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, no.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, today we have with us Andrew Sliwinski of DIY.org.
Oh, Andrew.
Yep.
He makes stuff. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is, and he does. This week we caught up with him about the new maker community for kids, how it came about, and how kids and parents can join in the fun.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's time to start.
Yeah. Oh. Ooh. Okay.
Like 5 seconds ago.
Welcome to Engineer versus Designer,
the podcast
for designers, engineers, makers, geeks, freaks, and those who think kids need more DIY in their diet. My name is Josh, mechanical engineer of SolidSmack.com,
and my name is Adam, industrial designer of CADjunkie.com. Each week's EVD brings you somebody doing something really nifty in the world of design
and engineering,
and we get them to talk about their design process, tools, and generally how they go about making their ideas real.
Yes, today we have engineer, maker, code shaker, electronic breadboard baker from San Francisco, California, Andrew Sliwinski of DIY.org.
Andrew Sliwinski, if you had the choice of being a laser shooting robot in a Mastodon video or having lasers shooting robots deploying from your beard on command, which would you choose?
Well, beard, no doubt. I mean, you gotta always go
beard
with
bots.
The beard, right?
Beard bots, baby.
Laser shooting beard bots. So.
As much as I like Mastodon, yes.
There are so many possibilities.
Oh man, so many possibilities. Wait, can beard bots put food in your mouth? That's what I want.
Directly into my mouth. Yes.
That would be awesome. Yeah.
Adam.
What?
Yeah. Do you know what DIY.org is?
You know what, Josh? I
Actually,
do. I just looked at it, and there's lots of pretty colors on the screen.
Appeals to your designery senses, does it?
It does.
Yeah. I spent hours exploring the homepage, literally hours.
Those cartoons, pretty epic.
Yeah.
Lots of cartoons.
Lots of animal kids making stuff. Andrew, we've seen it. We know what it is. Lots of parents, or eventual parents in that case, are out there listening right now. So we're wondering, how do you find yourself explaining what DIY.org is to them?
We're a community for creative kids. It's as simple as that. And through that, what we try to do is a lot of things. Like, we try to give kids their own portfolio to show off the things that they create. We want to be the first website that a kid has for themselves, and we try to make it really easy for them to share the things that they do, and in turn give a chance for friends and family to give them feedback and encourage them to keep creating.
That is so awesome. And speaking of awesome, I love the little, when you click on a project, then you've got the little thumbs up icons, but it's not like or not like. It's just like there's awesome. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's super cool. Whatever. It's fantastic. So it's a cool, simple interface. It mixes curiosity with collecting your projects, viewing what other people are doing. So first of all, who creates these fabulous illustrations? And secondly, what age group is DIY.org focused on?
Well, our wonderful illustrations are all done in-house by my co-founders and one really amazing guy that's on our staff named Mike Bertino. So Isaiah Saxon, nice. Mike Bertino, and Darren do all of our illustration work, and it's kind of a really fascinating thing to watch because we've got engineers on staff, and we have designers, and we have all these illustrators. And as an engineer, I'll be writing code, and then I'll look up, and there'll be some ridiculous illustration happening on the wall. And so it's like a really wonderful environment to be in.
Sounds like heaven.
And second, what age group is DIY.org focused on?
So we shoot for 7 to 12, and we know that we kind of skew a little bit below that and also a little bit above that, and we're comfortable with that, but we try to focus on 7 to 12 as kind of our key demographic for the kids that we're trying to reach out to.
Right on. Cool. So 4 guys into making, of course, Zach Klein, brought fame as founder of College Humor and Vimeo. You specifically have been involved in the Detroit maker scene. So how did DIY.org come together?
Well, DIY started as a film project that Isaiah and Darren and one of our other co-founders, Sean, were working on. And essentially what they did is, as filmmakers, they were trying to think about what they would want to do as like a feature film. And they came up with this idea of building this heroic myth around the maker movement, and they came up with the name DIY. And in this idea for a film, there was this group of kids that are all amazing makers and go and help save their town and kind of all these activities that they do. And we realized that, well, like, this club should just exist, that they belong to.
Yeah, this isn't a movie. This should be a real thing.
Right, exactly. And so Zach and Isaiah sort of started to kick around that idea. They met through the O'Reilly folks, which make Magazine. And then the following year, the same folks, the folks from Make Magazine, introduced Isaiah and I. And then within like 10 minutes of meeting each other, we realized that we should be working together on something. And and basically from there, we all just sort of became friends, and then DIY took shape.
Fantastic. Wow. And by the way, you were involved in Detroit, but now you're in San Francisco, I think. Is that right? How did that transition happen?
Yeah. So I was in Detroit for about 10 years and did everything from building robots to building 3D Etch-a-Sketches to starting to help starting a hackerspace. And essentially just my work kept kind of bringing me out to San Francisco all the time until eventually, with DIY and just all these amazing projects happening out here around education, which is where I knew that I kind of wanted to focus. It just made the most sense to even though I still love and miss Detroit, it just made sense for me to move my family out here.
And so you're creating a business based around a community of children. How is that different from working with a community of larger people? And I mean, do you have a children board of advisors for this community?
Well, we definitely have a children board of advisors. We call it Maker Club. And they come in every Friday and tell us everything that we're doing wrong. And it's kind of amazing. Like when you work with adults, or any group that you feel more connected to, in terms of your own personal demographic, when you make decisions about how you want to design something or how you want to engineer something or how an illustration should look or how something should feel or how something should sound, you're drawing from your personal experience. And
right.
So we all kind of have to like channel our inner child like all the time when we're working on DIY. But you always feel kind of, we're not kids. We're a bunch of guys in our 20s and 30s and girls as well. And so it's really important that we bring kids in all the time to look at what we're doing, to give us feedback. And because kids have no filter, they're always super upfront with telling us what we got wrong or what they feel excited about. And so our board of directors is called Maker Club, and it's kind of the best thing ever.
Best idea. Maybe that is what we're missing. Children
Probably
board
is.
of directors.
I think you actually might be onto something, except that you, Josh, have the mind of a child, which is pretty close to what we would need for that. So I think we're probably good. So Josh, I'm not sure you should be handling that saw blade like that.
Why?
Well,
Why?
It's upside down, and B, or two, it looks like you've already chopped at least one leg off.
That's nothing. A scratch. But,
Yeah.
But
well, we
I am a little
do
dizzy.
use a lot of tools making things, but what are kids using to explore their creativity? What do people have against kids exploring their creativity with tools?
What is it?
DIY.org is a website and a makerspace.
So obviously there's been a lot of focus on adult makers right now with the Instructables Thingiverse and other communities, the hackerspaces that are popping up. Certainly kids are a lot more tech savvy nowadays. But why hasn't there been a focus on children before, do you think?
There's a lot of fear, I find, surrounding sort of not just making education with kids, but just working with kids in general wherever they touch tools, or if they're, we're basically encouraging kids
physical
to
fear
do
of
things.
damage to children.
Right, exactly. Like, there's just so much fear. And one of the things that can be really frustrating about that is that a lot of times that fear translates directly to the kids. Like, they feel like they're, when you put a kid in a bubble, they start to expect that bubble as the norm. And they sort of internalize and develop that fear of doing new things, or of trying new things, or of failing, or anything else. And with that, they sort of lose that ability, or lose that tendency to just explore. And so building a business around kids can be really difficult, because our kids are our users, and they're who we care deeply about. But our customers are our parents. We have to make sure that the parents feel comfortable, that we're providing every level of privacy and security and protection that we can to the kids. And so it's an interesting tightrope to walk, because we have to balance those two things together, which sometimes can be mutually exclusive, but we're trying to find ways where those places really connect. We find that parents really want to let their kids go and try and get credit for the things that they're making.
I sure hope so.
We just try to provide a really safe environment for them to do that.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, I'm sure that there are a lot of listeners out there who are parents, and many of those have seen Sir Ken Robinson's TED Talk on education and creativity, and they, if they have, they probably agree that we could do more to promote creativity among the youngsters. So what, in your opinion, can schools do to promote more creativity and interest in making things?
Well, there are so many good people working on this exact question right now, and we're kind of a little bit outside of it, and that we're trying to work directly with the kids and the parents themselves. So I'm certainly not going to claim to be an expert, but I think one of the things that schools in general need to try to do is to just provide areas and spaces for kids to explore. There's a lot of focus on trying to put kids into these tracks where we can have measured results really immediately, rather than giving kids spaces and opportunities to explore the things that they're really passionate about. Like, one of the things that I think that we found within DIY that was really surprising to me was that we tend to think about kids as kind of having these ridiculously ADD tendencies, if left unattended to, they're just going to go everywhere. Well, why is that a bad thing? One of the things that we've noticed with DIY is when you just let kids go wherever they want to go, they generally tend to find something that they feel like they're really good at, that they connect with, and they'll just keep doing it. Like, every day I come in and I check this one kid's account. His name's Round Monk. And every day he has this new animal sculpture that he's created, like every single morning. And cool. That's the kind of thing that as adults we try to, we discredit, that kids aren't capable of doing these kind of sort of long-term tasks without being on these really tight rails. But in general, if we give kids the time and the space to explore, they're capable of really amazing things.
My daughter and I, after creating Fuzzy Bumble the Bear, we're looking at the projects where I'm almost sure you saw a spike in the things marked beautiful. And I think a lot of parents would be surprised at what these kids are creating. And a lot of parents have likely helped create some of those similar projects. So what are some of the things that have really surprised you?
Well, I think I mentioned Round Monk. There's a bunch of kids that really have just impressed me with how prolific they are. Every day they're posting a new thing. But there's also been some kids that have really surprised me with just how they've kind of reinterpreted things. Like, there's one kid whose name is, aptly enough, Awesome Dude. And his project is a non-electronic iPod. And basically what he did was he took what he perceived as the core functionality of an iPod and transformed it into something that out of an Altoids tin that just has all of that built into it. So it's an old music box, an old crank music box, a flip book so that you can make animations, a notepad, like an actual sticky pad, and a little piece of paper printed out with his multiplication tables that all go inside the Altoids tin.
That is fantastic. Does everything an iPod does. Everything you would need it to do anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Play music, write a sticky note, do some multiplication.
And
everything that you need
little red
there.
birds that you can throw at your brother.
Yeah, and so it's just projects like that have been really, really surprising to us. It's just, just how ingenious some of this stuff can be.
So I know you say you get a lot of feedback from the kids, oftentimes very blunt negative feedback about things that you're doing, telling you how to do better. Do you ever hear from the kids about things you're doing really well, like you saved my childhood and now my parents are DIY believers, etc.?
No, we haven't heard too much like that. We have started to get a lot of projects that are like drawings and paintings to us, which are really cute and always brighten our day. But I think the biggest thing is, like, in the office we have this little script that I wrote that's called the project feed, and we kind of call it the happy button, because if you are ever kind of feeling down or frustrated at any point in the day, you just click on the project feed and can just look at all the stuff that kids are uploading, and that's kind of it for us. Like, that's all we need to keep going. It's just seeing the creativity that we're helping to share. It's just really fun.
That's it, Josh. A children board of advisors and a happy button. That's what we need.
I like that idea. We could put it next to the cheese button.
On the burrito extruder? Absolutely.
Yes.
Look out! Engineer versus Designer is brought to you by Mojo 3D Printer, a world-class professional 3D printer for only $185 a month. To find out how you can give your big idea a little mojo, visit mojo3dprinting.com.
Yes, welcome back. This week we had a chat with Andrew Sliwinski of DIY.org, a new magical maker community for kids.
I'm really kind of bitter about the fact that Andrew wasn't doing this when I was a kid.
That's because you're old.
I'm not that old. I'm not as old as you are. That's for sure.
That's ear hair I see in your ear hole.
What's that? You're braiding the hair coming out of your nose right now. You're making fun of my ear hair. I don't get it. Anyway, we wanted to talk to Andrew more about what inspired him as a child and what tips he has for parents that want to make more creative maker spaces for their own kiddos.
Yeah, really, this segment is going to be the perfect excuse to go out and buy a lot more tools.
We always need more of those,
Really?
Especially you, Josh, who obviously need some scissors to trim that nose hair.
Along with it, you're a grown-up maker, so what's your favorite thing about working with kid makers, and how does it inform you your grown-up making senses?
They ask a lot of questions, which I think sometimes can be a little overwhelming. It's the whole, like, why? Well, why?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at some point, when they ask you why for, like, the 15th time, they'll sort of hit the limits of what you know. And at that point, I usually say, I have no idea, but, let's Google it and try to figure it out. And that, because they ask so many questions, it generally really pushes you to a place where you kind of get in that same mindset as well. Like, as adults, and particularly as adult makers, when you do something for long enough, I've been welding for a really long time, as well as programming and a bunch of other things. You sort of start to kind of feel like you've got this under control. Like, yeah, I know how this works. But then when they start asking all these questions, you realize, I have no idea how this works. I need to keep pushing myself. And so I really like that part about working with kids.
That's
Well,
cool.
and so I mean, you're an engineer. What inspired you to become an engineer? Did you know you wanted to be an engineer when you were 7 to 12 years old, or how did that come about?
I had no idea that I wanted to be an engineer when I was a kid. I just knew that I liked taking things apart. And I have two really wonderful
We hear that
parents.
a lot.
Yeah, I had two really wonderful parents that that A, let me take a lot of things apart, and B, provided an environment for me where I always had access to tools. My parents were prop masters when I was a kid, like theater prop masters, and so I was always around tools,
Cool.
and I was allowed to use them, except for the table saw.
That's a judicious choice on your parents' part.
Yeah. And so I just started, grabbing screwdrivers and taking toys apart, and that's kind of how it started. And it just snowballed from there until I took the lawnmower apart, I took our computer apart, I took everything apart. And that just sort of, that curiosity just kind of translated over to when I became an adult, and I decided to be a designer and an engineer, and it just made sense to me that that's kind of where I should be. It's like, oh, I want to understand how things work and put them back together in new ways. Then that this is what I should do.
Yeah. I just stepped on some screws a little earlier this morning around a tractor that had been taken apart in the hallway. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm on the other side of that. I can, and it's actually nice to see. So I'm wondering, do you encourage kids to take things apart at DIY? Go home and
I do. Yeah, I do. Like one of the things that we used to run, actually I ran one at last year's East Bay Mini Maker Fair, was just called a Rec Lab, where I go to the recycling center and get a bunch of electronics, and I get a bunch of really cheap screwdrivers, and we just take stuff apart for hours. And it's really funny, like particularly kids that have never done it before, usually the first time that they kind of crack the case on, an old printer or some toy that they found, it's like, they open it up and it's like opening a present on Christmas Day. It's like, whoa, that's what's inside of this thing? Like, there's wires and this green thing that has dots on it. It's just this moment of discovery that's really cool. And so, yes, we encourage kids to take stuff apart as much as possible.
That is fantastic. And what are some tips that you might give to parents who want to create, or who want to foster that curiosity and creativity and making and all this stuff for kids, aside, of course, from introducing them to DIY.org?
Well, I think more than anything, just provide that kind of environment where they can feel open to explore. A lot of parents that I talk with, I'll just recommend just get some cheap tools. If you don't have tools in the house, just get some screwdrivers, get a hammer, get some glue, get some tape. Just get the elements that you need, and make sure that they're in a place where the kid can get to them, so that they can explore on their own time. Like, one of the things that's really interesting is, like, a lot of kids will sort of get started with making out of necessity. They want an iPod and they can't have an iPod, or, I got started with taking apart electronics when I wanted a stereo, and my parents said no. So I found an old pair of radio headphones and a megaphone toy that I had, and I put them together to make myself a stereo.
That's awesome.
It's like a lot of these moments of making are at their best when it's just problem solving for kids, and you never know when that moment's going to happen for a kid. And so just giving them the environment and giving them the tools to be able to kind of make that leap when they're ready is one of the best ways that you can just kind of get them started down the path.
Kids, a lot of times, the things that they want to make are impossible for them to make. How do you encourage kids that say, I want to build a 7-foot tall working mech robot, or I really want to build the next iPod, and it's going to do this and that and the other thing, and it's an actual iPod with a touchscreen. How do you encourage them, divert that energy, or what do you do?
That's a really, really good question, and I think sometimes the temperament of kids is really what makes that piece really amazing is you know, as adults, when we think of something that we want to build, like I want to build a spaceship, and I know nothing about aeronautics. You know, I know nothing about jet fuel. I have no idea how to do this, so I'm just going to not do it. And one of the really amazing things about most kids is that doesn't matter to them. Like, if they want to build a spaceship, they're going to build a spaceship. And in the act of them exploring how to get there, in many times is sort of its own reward. And so, you know, you may have a 7-year-old kid, and the only materials that they have available to build an actual working macrobot is cardboard and, you know, scissors and tape. But they'll build something. It may not be what they had in their head, but it'll still be something that they feel excited about most of the time.
Right.
And so it's not necessarily about being discouraging and saying, you know, no, you cannot build your own factory in China to build the next, you know, iPhone. But like, let's see what we have in this drawer full of stuff, and let's try. And so I kind of find that most of the time it doesn't matter. As long as you're honest with them and you just say, well, let's just try and we'll see where we get. It usually isn't that big of a disappointment.
I'm tearing up right now. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
To all the EVD listeners out there, take your child and your inner child to DIY.org. Immediately experience it with your kids and watch them get excited about tearing your toaster apart and making a mask out of all those loose parts.
And if you would like to send boxes of toasters to EVD HQ for Josh's children, please address those to Josh's wife. She'll be shocked and overjoyed.
Time to get more tools.
Yeah.
Engineer vs. Designer, appreciate your comments. If you'd like to see us tear apart power tools to make a cake maker bot beast, head over to EngineerVsDesigner.com and show your support. Donations welcome.
And if you'd like to see us gnaw our headphone cords till we're laughing and rolling on the floor, be sure to like us, plus want us, follow us, or whatever, as social media has been correlated with ROFL.
Indeed. This show is edited by the Simon Martin. Our music is by Ross Hartman.
And, of course, a special thanks to Maggie for reading our ad copy this week. We'll see you next week. And remember, design makes engineering awesome.
And engineering makes design awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you feel? It's good? Good?
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
A production of EVD Media.